Hi, everybody. A very good afternoon to all of you. My name is Eileen, and with me here today is my teammate, Alan. And today we're going to discuss the topic of how we might be secretly or unintentionally sabotaging our job search. Okay, so for those of you who are new to us, those of you who already know us, bear with us. Those of you who are new to us and have never attended one of our webinars, we are from the IBF Careers Connect. And as a career center, what we do is we help all job seekers who are interested in jobs in the banking and finance sector in all areas of the job search. So this can be anything related to your resume writing, your interviewing technique, and also improving your LinkedIn profile and anything. And even if you're considering a career switch, you need a sounding board. We have a great team of coaches who are around to help you talk through your issues. So I am going to move on. So warm welcome to everyone. You came to this workshop because of what we are going to cover today. And what we are going to cover today is really about, in job search, right? When you go for a lot of career workshops about techniques and tactics that you can use in your job search, but sometimes there are things that are more fundamental than that you're unintentionally doing that actually sabotage all your efforts. So today we are going to go through what some of these are. And for those of us who are familiar with us, right, you will know that we run our webinars in a very interactive manner. And we encourage everyone who's listening in to please ask as many questions as you can, because the more questions you ask, right, the more we will be able to share with you about, all that we learn as a career center. So okay, so how we're going to cover this is we will talk through our job search principles that run through your entire job search. And then we will break down what we call the sabotage stations, which means at each stage of your job search, what are the different things that you could be doing wrong that are completely sabotaging your entire job search. And Q&A, the Q&A box is available for you to ask as many questions as you can. And during our presentation, we will be able to stop and answer all your questions. So, those of you who are familiar with us, please bring on your questions. And with me here is Alan. Anything to add to them?
I'm good. All is covered. I think we can go ahead and start the presentation. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Alan. Okay, job search principle number 1, chicken or fish. Most of you who are with us, whether you're here with us for the first time or not, in the course of your job search, you would have talked to many career coaches, you would have listened to Google or gone into LinkedIn courses on career and job search. And then for every piece of advice that you hear in Google, you will always have 50% of your people, in why we use this picture, chicken and fish, right, is that in a room, if you ask people which do they prefer, you will always roughly have half who prefer chicken, the other half prefer fish. So it is with your job search. If you ask your friends, should my resume be 3 pages or 4 pages? Roughly, you will have half of them say 3, the other half will say 4. So what we are trying to share with you is that do not be tight or obsessed if you go to different career coaches and then they give you different advice, because at any point in time, you will always have differing points of view. And what we want to encourage for all our job seekers, right, is that you learn to embrace the diversity. And the next principle is eat the meat and spit out the bones. So, if you see 5 different coaches, by all means, take what each coach has to offer you and spit out the rest. Just run along with whatever you can. And so we hope that this advice is useful for you. And we are going to move on to the third principle that will underpin today's workshop, which is in your job search journey, everything that you say or do about something will always say something about you. I hope, so I'm going to repeat this principle later on as we go through, what you're actually doing that could be sabotaging your own job search. So remember, everything you say or do really reflects something about you. So this is what we want to share with you. And okay, so we're done with the 3 job principles. If you don't remember anything, I hope you can remember the pictures, the chicken or the fish, and eating the meat and spitting out the bones. And remember, whatever you say, it always reflects something about you. Okay,
Mm.
and
Maybe I add on a little bit
yes,
on the principle, one of the principle about the eating the meat and spit out the bones. I think my experience is that I have clients come to me and say, spoke to some career advisor from another center, and I
yeah,
speak to you, and then they have given me different advice from
yes,
yours, you know. And then I think it's important to be clear when you speak to a
mm,
career advisor from different center. I think important to understand what's your objective. Let's say, for example, you speak to a career advisor in IBF, then maybe the
mm.
objective here is to look for jobs within the banking and finance industry, for another career advisor, probably from another industry. So be clear with that, and then try not to mix all the advice together, because uh, I think the more advisor you see, the more advice you get, and you couldn't be clear, then you get yourself confused. All right, instead of they helping you, you get yourself confused. So be clear with that. Yeah, that's about all I want to share about eat the meat, spit out the bones.
Thank you, Ellen. I
Yeah.
really like that because many of the people who come to us, right, have already been to the other career centers. And then the first time they hear we say something, right, they always ask us, but what you're saying is opposite to what the other career centers say. Then how? So this is what we want to encourage you to do. And then, okay, so we're ready to talk about what we call sabotage stations. So which means that your job search is actually split into a few different stations, what we call stations. And at every station or stage of your job search, there is going to be something that is going to sabotage you, and it's always something to do with what you are doing yourself, not what other people are doing about to you. Oh, so this is the most important slide in this whole webinar. So if you don't remember anything else from this webinar, I hope that everyone can remember this particular slide. And that is this whole recruitment funnel. So remember, every job vacancy there is out there is going through what we call a recruitment funnel, which means that at every stage of your job search, at every station, you start from the top and you go to the bottom. From you identifying the job, you are being filtered out by an employer. When you submit your resumes, the company is filtering out who they are going to interview. And when you go for an interview, the company is once again eliminating who they do not want to proceed to the next round. And this is very important for you to understand for the very next reason, okay? And why we put the word networking right at the side, right, is always because networking is the single most important thing you can do in your job search. There will be many of you who have got experiences personally or who have got friends who found a job in XXX company because they knew somebody, they knew the hiring manager, they knew the CEO, and so on and so forth. So what we're saying is, if you get your networking done correctly and well, it's like snakes and ladders. You will go straight from the job identification straight to the decision maker. You can everything else in between, the resume, the interview with the hiring manager, everything becomes just a formality. So if there is anything we want you to concentrate on, it is really on networking. And we are going to talk more about that in the following slides. And underpinning all these, why many other career workshops, or even you go to Google, you go to YouTube, and you go to Udemy, you learn about techniques, right? You learn about how to find a job, how to write a resume, and how to
Yes.
interview. They're all talking about techniques. And there is one big reason why some techniques work for other people, and then you apply those same techniques, it doesn't work for you. And this is the next session we're going to talk about. So important, before we even talk about this, remember the recruitment funnel. And what is important for you as a job seeker going through that funnel, right, is that your only objective when you are applying for a job is this. Everything you do in your resume, in your LinkedIn profile, and what you say to the interviewer, your only objective is to avoid elimination, nothing else. So this is the key message that I'm hoping that everyone will remember, because I'm going to keep repeating this. And so we talked about, why techniques work for some people and why they don't work for other people, right? It is all about, I use this picture of Dr. Strange. It is all about who is that person behind all the techniques. Okay, the right person using ordinary techniques is going to make the techniques work for them. But if you are using the techniques, copying somebody else's style without having that same person's personality, the substance, or if you're even applying for in the wrong job funnel, then these techniques are not going to work for you. Okay.
What do you mean by wrong job funnel, Eileen? For
Okay.
example, maybe some example.
Yes. So for example, wrong job funnel means that you may be an SVP, and then maybe you are out of job, and then you are looking for a job, and you tell yourself any job will do. So in your own perception, you are that person behind this funnel, right? So you apply for an SVP, a series of SVP jobs. So an SVP experience, applying for SVP jobs, we will call that a correct job funnel. You're competing in the right place. Whereas if you're an SVP and you're applying for associate or analyst type of jobs, so we're talking about having a wrong job funnel. You're not, even though you're extremely qualified, you are considered overqualified. You're competing in the wrong place, and therefore your chances of success are very, very slim.
I see. So it's different level of where we put ourselves, and we need to put ourselves in the right level, right scope of work that we are doing.
Yes. And another example, so we talk about overqualification. So that's one type of wrong job funnel. The other type of wrong job funnel, right, is now we have got many people who are signing up for courses in data analysis. Then you're signing up for courses in AI or machine learning or, everything that is technology. You have got we see a large group of people who are career pivoters and who come back from a career gap, and then they take something totally different from what they used to do. For example, some people used to be accountants, and then you suddenly take up a data analytics course. Yeah. And then when you finish that course, people mistakenly think that after I take up that data analytics course, even though I have zero experience, but I've got 10 years experience as a finance manager. When people have this concept, right, they think that their funnel is competing with all the fresh grads who are coming out from the local universities who are applying for fresh grad data analytics roles. So that's an example of what we call a wrong type of funnel. So someone with a finance background doing accounting plus a data analytics qualification would do very well to compete in a place where there are other accounting jobs that require data analytics skills, than to compete in a space where you're competing with fresh grads who have done 4 whole years of programming or data work. And you just took a 6 months course on it. So so we are hoping that everyone will hear our message today and really consider what funnel are you in.
Okay.
Yep. So those of you who have got problems identifying your true funnel, please feel free to sign up with us and see one of our teammates, who can, provide you one-to-one advice on, selecting the right funnel for your skills. Yeah. Thanks, Alan. I thought that was a nice question. Really like it.
Thanks.
Okay. Underpinning everything, right? So we talked about, the person behind all the techniques, right? You attending resume workshop, attending interview workshops, right? The real person behind that is okay. Do we have, I'm going to go a little slower so that we have got more time for latecomers. And then for everyone, and I encourage everyone who, if you're not sure what the concept of wrong job funnel is, please ask on so that we can answer your questions.
I think there is one question. I think this is interesting. There are a lot of junior jobs. Isn't it better to apply junior roles even?
I like this.
Even if it's at mid level, as not many hiring level right now. So it's like just now you mentioned that if I am
Mm,
an accountant, I have a break, I took a data analytics role, and then why don't I
mm.
apply at the fresh grad level?
Yeah.
Because not many opening at the
Mm.
mid-level role. Yeah.
Yes.
What's your thoughts? Yeah.
Okay. Oh, I really like this question. So I'm going to attempt to answer them. And
Mm,
Alan, I'm going to leave you to interrupt me when you have got other insights because Alan sees things in a very nice way that's quite opposite from me. So the two of us make a good answer to you. Okay.
different perspective.
Yeah,
No,
different perspective.
same
So
direction, different perspective. Yeah.
yes,
All right.
yes. Yeah, so there's
Okay.
a lot of junior jobs, right?
Mm,
In our experience, right, it is not better to apply for junior roles even though you're at the mid level because from your experience, I mean, from your perspective, right, you think, hey, I'm a good deal, you're paying me a junior salary and you're getting mid-level experience. But
mm,
from the hiring manager's perspective, right, what they are thinking about is, gosh, this person is only using my this job as a stepping stone. The moment the
mm,
market opens up and a higher salary job opens up, this person is going to leave.
mm,
That
mm,
is the key consideration that is putting off the hiring manager. So in our experience, right, so what is happening is that many of the mid-level or higher people who are applying for lower roles, right, you almost never ever get any response for lower roles
mm,
unless there's only a big unless you are able to convince whoever is reading your application in the first place, right, through a cover letter or something like that on your LinkedIn profile of your compelling reason why you are taking a lower role.
mm. I think I have that same perspective as yours, Eileen.
Mm,
Of course, I think it's always that if you want to apply for a junior role, right, it is
mm,
perfectly okay to apply for your junior role if you want to. But what we are
mm,
saying here is that, you do have certain years of experience, and that
mm,
may have transferable skills in there,
yeah.
that it could be a value that if you compete at certain
Mm,
level, and then with your data analytics as a complement or additional skills that you can
mm,
work on the same area of your work, and of course bring greater value, then you will be a stronger candidate in a way,
yeah.
rather than you compete in the area where the fresh grad is, where they
Mm,
don't even consider any
yeah.
transferable skills. I think that is something what we are trying to bring. But of course, then again, there's another question. What if I do not want to be an accountant? I
Yes.
just take a 6-month course or to be a data analytics role, and then can I compete at the same fresh grad, or will I have to compete in another funnel?
Mm. Okay. I like this. No, there was something I wanted to add to what Alan said just now, right, about competing at the lower role. So for those of you who have, I want to answer those of you who may not have asked this question, that you have been SVP and above, you have been an ex-MD and you've been there, done that. Now you don't want the stress of leadership. You do not mind a lower role because now you have paid up your house, your kids are all grown up, and you just want something to be productive, right? There is a way to present yourself where you can say something like, I have had the chance to lead and whatever at this high level, but I discover that I am really passionate about being hands-on and being operational in my daily work, and so that is why I'm applying for this position. This kind of approach, right, requires, we encourage you to work with your career advisor on this, because this
Mm,
kind of work requires you to completely see yourself in a different light. You're going
mm,
to have to highlight your mentoring skills, your ability to transfer knowledge,
mm,
and you also need to pick up a whole new set of what we call subservient language when you
mm,
talk about yourself. When you talk to a hiring manager who is younger than you, who will possibly feel threatened because you can take over that person's job and you're applying to be that person's staff.
mm,
These are things that they will not tell you that they are rejecting you for during the interview, but it is very real in Singapore in this Singapore context.
mm,
So if you need help on that, we will try to answer as much as we can here, but we encourage you to work with a career advisor to really, really change your language and
mm,
the way you pitch yourself in resume writing interview. Okay.
mm.
Yeah. So that we just now, Alan,
Yeah.
we answered the other one about accounting for
Yes.
This question about accounting for 10 years and then don't want to do
Don't
accounting
do
anymore.
accounting anymore.
Yeah. So our suggestion is, right, you can, if you really, really just hate accounting so much, consider that it is very difficult for you with accounting 10 years and you do data analytics, right? It's very difficult for you to convince an employer that you are comparable in speed, in learning agility with the fresh grads coming out from university. So bear in mind that perspective. What you decide to do with it is something for you to really have a good think through, because this will affect the question from Hannah. Selecting for the correct funnel for pivotal means adjacent jobs. Yes, our suggestion is that you take adjacent jobs, because we're going to talk about a concept called a clear exchange. A lot of pivoters, okay, people who take courses and come out wanting to do something different like data. Pivoters who say, okay, I hate my last job, I want to do something different. So I took only a course, mind you, I took a course and then I write in my resume, I tell my friends, I tell interviewers that I've done something for the last 10 years, I really hate it, I've taken a course. I want to work for you because I know working for you will give me the chance to learn new skills and put what I've learned to practice. Now, consider how this is sounding to the hiring manager. To that person, right, this is not a fair exchange. There is no clear exchange. You're not giving that person anything. You're asking for everything to be trained with zero. So if you are a pivoter, right, when we ask you to aim for adjacent roles, what we are asking you to do is to go for to compete in a field where there is what we call a clear exchange. So here, look here, I've got 10 years of accounting experience. I offer you this, and I ask you for that 20% of my time where you will allow me a bigger job scope doing data analysis for you. You see, so the way you're presenting your selling to the interviewer is very different when you say it like that. Yeah. So Hannah, I hope that answers your question, and I hope the other questions keep coming along.
Yeah. I think a lot of questions talk about career pivoting. I think the questions so I think important thing is you need to be mindful, to be aware about your profile, which later I think Eileen's going to share. What kind of profile do you want to show to the hiring manager? Especially if you want to show you are totally doing a 100% career switch, then there must be also some transferable skills that you can bring over to make yourself even strong as a strong candidate, even 100%. So I think at the end of the day, if you want to perceive as a fresh grad, then what we are trying to say is that it's going to be a challenge for you.
It's very hard.
Very hard. It's not about just taking a paper and taking a certification, then you can find a job, totally a new job, but it's going to be some challenge. It's not. We didn't say it's not possible, but it's still be much more challenges that you can see. So I think for career pivoting, I think Eileen will share more later and how you're going to personal brand yourself and see how you can, work up to your personal branding and be a stronger candidate.
Yeah. Okay, so we can quickly move on some of the questions. Okay, that question about getting contract work in the new track that you are pursuing, if you can do that, perfect. Because the message we want to bring to pivoters, right? Remember, your certification actually is no attraction to an employer. That's the problem with what a lot of people are doing today, because everybody reads in the newspapers that, oh, data analytics is the next big thing. Now it's AI and now it's prompt engineering. So everybody goes and takes a course on prompt engineering. And then you think that you can compete, but what you really want to find is, again, a place where someone will give you credit for, someone will need the skills you already have, and then allow you the opportunity in exchange to practice the skills that you want to pick up. So remember, a course is really not equals to experience, is really not equals to you being attractive to an employer. Yeah.
Okay. Before we jump to the next section, maybe there's one question talk about, do anybody look at cover letter in the junior level?
I like this question. Yes. Yeah. This cover letter, right, is one
Mm,
of our chicken and fish questions. It's a classic question because there will always be half of HR people and hiring managers reading cover letters and the other half who do not. And so when we teach people how to write cover letters, we always teach you to write in such a way that it can stand alone and yet it can and does come together with your resume.
mm,
Yeah. So let me see what was the whole question again. Yeah, so the cover letter is important, and more important, right? They bring along the CV, but that does not prevent you from putting what we call a cover paragraph inside your CV.
mm.
So the old school idea of cover letter with dear something with a lot of funny language that you get from Chat GPT, right, is not working today. Remember today's attention span is really TikTok style. 1 minute, no more. So don't even think about 5 minute cover letters. Yeah.
Something very concise and specific,
Mm,
and what you want to share with the hiring manager.
yeah.
A short
Yeah.
one will do. Yep. Good.
So AI screening, usually if you embed your cover notes within your CV, yes, AI screening does. Yeah. So we say looking for retirement job. Okay, that's funny. Yeah. And bear in mind now, remember when you say retirement job to the employer, your exchange offer to the employer is that, look, you give me salary, I'm here to slack off on your
So,
time, on your
to,
paid time. This is the real message you're saying.
yeah.
Yeah. So okay, so we're going to move on. How to embed. Okay,
Yes.
we're talking about cover sentences. So we're just talking about no more than 3 to 5 lines within the structure of your CV. Okay. That is a topic for another session altogether. And we are going to talk about, before we move on, we're going to talk about the importance of having a story as the single most important sabotage station in your
Mm.
entire job search. Okay. And I use Doctor Strange. Those of you who have watched the movie will understand that he underwent a career pivot. Okay. Okay, why we use this idea of a story, right? Let me just give you a very simple example. This screen is just for you to get a visual idea of what a story really is. When you get your career story right, okay, you will be able to answer questions like who are you, the character, what do you do, and then for those of you who are who left previous jobs, you are in a pivot, you're in a gap, your career story is what is going to answer the question, why did you leave your last job? And the resolution, meaning, where will you be in 5 years' time? Why should I hire you? Because if your end goal is looking very different, okay, say for example, retirement comment, right? If if I'm a retiree, I've got all the money I need now. I just want to work to kill the 8 hours that I have every day. I'm just here to kill time. That resolution for you is not going to resonate with a startup, where the team constantly pulls all-nighters in rushing for deadlines. So you see, your career story is very important in helping you to, number one, select the right funnel and to be able to convince and get through the funnel that you want to. So let me give you an example of a career story. Okay. So for example, since young, you have been a problem solver. Okay. You like to take things apart. You like to figure out how things work. And then in the home, so maybe you took apart your mobile phone when you were young and then you pieced it back. So that's what you did when you were young. Then when you went to university, you discovered that you liked technical subjects, so you studied engineering, right? So when you studied engineering, you came out and you did what all engineers do, which is to take a manufacturing job. Okay, so that goes into your work history. Then in the field of engineering, you realize that maybe you like working with people more, but you are still into you are still looking for areas where you can help people solve problems and provide solutions. Then you discover that you being very good in technical areas, you will do very well in mathematical disciplines, like for example, quantitative finance or coding. So you then take, you happen to have a career break for whatever reason. And during that time, you realize that, hey, you actually, besides taking care of your family matters, you are so interested in finance and in, problem solving in finance, right, that you decide to take some studies in, say, forensic accounting, for example, just for example. So therefore, by the time during this break or this conflict season, when you decide, I'm really interested in this forensic accounting, you have spare time, you will be reading the journals. Maybe you'll be doing volunteer work or contract work for small companies who are doing forensic accounting projects, something like that, right? Then you can put all this onto your resume. By the time you're ready to come out from your gap, you apply to a company that does this, you would have a compelling story. You can then say that I have always been a troubleshooter, a problem solver at heart. I became very interested and very strong in technical subjects and became very good at finding out the source of problems, and I put this to good use in engineering, and I also got so interested that I studied forensic accounting. And during this gap that I had, I also did all these projects. So when I came out of this gap, I now see that you have this position, which is what I want to do, where I can contribute with my skills and experience from this sector. And this is the reason I am here today. So you see, when you are doing your first pitch, tell me about yourself. If you have a compelling reason and a compelling personal career story, you can see the difference versus I took a career gap because my family needed me. During this time, I followed what the government is saying, what my parents are saying. I took up a accounting course because they said this is the only way to make money. Now I saw that your company has a job just using this course, nothing to do with my previous job. And I hope that you will give me a chance to work for you so that I can apply the skills that I learned in my course. Do you see the difference? There's a lot of difference in the way your story is told and the words that are used and the language and the posturing. Yeah.
There's a question here, Eileen, is that this tell your story thing, is it same as tell me about yourself during interview?
Yes, it does. But not using the exact words that I use. Yeah. The reason why we say that this particular station, your story, right, is the thing that underpins everything is because once you get your story right, no matter how the interviewer or at a networking event, the question is asked, tell me about yourself. Why are you here at this event? What do you do in your daily life? What is your interest? What is your professional interest? What have you been doing during the last 5 months that you were searching for a job? With a compelling story which incorporates your own interests, your own personality, your values and all that, right? All these, do you realize how all these, once you get your career story right, all these questions, which are the techniques that we talk about that work for everybody else, all these techniques will automatically work for you.
That's great. So it's just like having a clear goal, what you want to focus on, what kind of jobs that you want by doing all this.
Yeah. And so for our audience, right, I hope that you will see that, when I repeat this whole theme throughout this whole webinar, it's something that I hope that everyone can take away, that, whether you are a pivoter or someone with a gap, or even if you're a career progressor, you are just moving along in the same path, right? In today's context, remember this slogan that I heard from somebody: facts tell, stories sell. When people buy you as a candidate, they are buying your whole story. So if you get your story right, getting the techniques, practicing techniques is just a matter of just techniques. And for those of you who are struggling with the techniques, right, it is because of the following problem. Okay, let me move on to the following slide. Okay, when you don't have a story, this is how you know you don't have a story, because we at the Career Center, we see a lot of people without a story. When you go and tell your friends, I don't know what I want to do, so I studied this course that my mom told me to study, and now I don't know what I want to do. Okay, and then you come to a career coach, or you ask your parent or your spouse or any figure of authority, tell me what I should do. Okay, you're looking for an answer outside. And then if you ask the right or the wrong people, can we say, everybody who has read the news is going to tell you, take data analytics. It is the biggest thing. You will sure earn money. Okay, and then the next thing is going to happen. Your friends, when you do networking, right, it's all about your friends, right? You ask your friends for help. Hey, I'm looking out for a job. Can you help me? Then your friends will ask you, what job are you looking for? And then you say things like, I'm open to options. So your friends aren't going to be able to help you with that kind of prompt, you know. So it's like AI. If you give ChatGPT garbage instructions, they will give you garbage outputs. Yeah.
Okay. There's a question here say that, should the career story be within the cover letter? I think, yeah, a cover letter can consist of your career story, but again, Eileen has shared earlier on, it's not so much about writing a 5-minute stories, be more concise again,
Yes.
But I think what we are trying to bring in here is that the story can help you in your area of your resume writing, as well as your interviewing skills. It can apply across the funnel itself. And even when having to think about your career clarity, you understand better and you are more focused on it.
Yeah, because another example, right? Your career story is the thing that underpins everything you do, correct? So when you have a career story, for example, you've always been, just now our example, right? The problem solver. So let's assume worst case scenario, the problem solver doesn't get that forensic accounting job. Okay, then there will always be adjacent jobs to forensic accounting that allow this problem solver to express himself or herself in problem solving skills that are equally fulfilling. So this is what we mean by you get your story right, you will get the right funnels, and in the right funnels, you will get that chance of success. You will get better chances of success. Yeah.
Well, to answer another question, we don't have a format of a cover letter, but I think it's important that you speak to a career advisor, look at your resume, and then see how we can customize on that area. So maybe feel free to do it, because if you're going to send a format of a cover letter, which then everybody will be having the same kind of cover letter.
Yes.
So yeah.
Thank you for that question. So it allows me to bring up another point. So again, right, because everybody in the market is going to do the same thing. So once you find a format, you can be sure that at least 100 other people in Singapore are going to use that same format. And so again, you have to ask yourself, what is it about you that's so special that will make the employer want to select you over somebody else? And the answer is not found in a format. It's about what you offer as a special person. Yeah.
Okay, so I think, okay, maybe I take this one. There's one questions that, what does the format means? I mean, what she meant about the format is the first, middle, or the end paragraph. How will it looks like on the story that,
Okay. Remember, it's very concise, 3 to 5 lines, no story. The story is something about you, but what you're telling to a different person. When you tell someone at a networking event, you tell a contact in LinkedIn versus what you tell at an interview, is all different parts of who you are. So in an interview, in a resume writing situation, right, you want to be very concise that I'm good in this thing. That's the first thing you want to say. I want to do this, and this is exactly how I can contribute to your job description here. This connection must be very clear, right? So if the thing asks for, job descriptions are usually in bullet form. If you can say in 3 bullets that match exactly what the JD is asking for, then that to us is a good cover letter. Yeah. Cover note, sorry, I want to break everyone away from this idea of a cover letter, because today I think employers do not have patience to read cover letters, so be very judicious with your words. Yeah. So okay, no clear exchange. We talked about it before, especially, if you are a career progressor, this is not a problem. That means you are moving from a VP to a SVP in the next role. You have got plenty of experience to offer in exchange for bigger pay. That is a clear exchange. When we say clear exchange is what we mentioned just now, that as a pivoter, right, you intend to throw away all your past experience. You are asking the employer to give you a learning experience on the basis of just your certification. And what we're saying here is that when this comes across like this to an employer, they have no basis on which to select you to give this free exchange.
Mm.
Okay, so yeah, so I hope everyone can remember this. And back to the recruitment funnel. So we've talked about the most important and the largest sabotage station of all, which was your whole career story. Okay, and we are going to talk about this particular funnel, which is where all the techniques come in. The next most important after career story is the thing at your left hand side, which is networking. So sabotage station number 2, things that people do wrong in networking. So remember, networking is always the fastest way you can get to, do something that you want to do. So we are talking about, okay, so for this thing, right, this whole idea about stereotypes in the job search scene alone, and you will see this in Instagram, in TikTok, there are plenty of stereotypes. And the question is, do you know what's your stereotype? One example of a stereotype is the generational stereotype. If you are a boomer, people associate boomers, people of a certain age group, right, with certain behaviors. So for example, boomers are associated with being resistant to change, being slow to learn, being very old-fashioned in their ideas. They might prefer, they are averse to social media. So that's stereotype number 1. Then there's the opposite stereotype to this is people who are Gen Z have no perseverance. They cannot take hardship and they have no work ethic. So that's one example of a stereotype. The thing, what's happening in our candidates, right? When you apply for jobs, when you go for an interview, right, is that you're not aware that there is this stereotype that is already working against you, and you unconsciously buy into that stereotype. So I'm going to use another example of how this happens. So for example, a woman who has taken time off for childcare, you're going to have a stereotype about, a stay-home mom stereotype. So when people think about stay-home moms, right, they immediately may think of somebody who's spending the whole day dressed in pajamas and with your hair in curlers or something like that. And when you show up at a job interview, you reinforce that stereotype by letting the interview derail into a conversation about your children's lives. And this happens in networking situations. And for those of you who are already working in a company, and if you are the only person who has come back from a stay-home gap, and your whole team is made of people who are younger than you, who are Gen Z and younger, and you know that people cannot appreciate your family season right now, right? You need to be aware of your stereotype, and you need to make sure that you do not exhibit the behaviors that reinforce that stereotype. So for example, women are accused of being emotional, or parents with young children, the stereotype behind that is that, gosh, if I employ you, I'm going to have to deal with frequent childcare leave. This is the reason why people ask questions during the interviews, like how many children do you have, or do you plan to have more children? This is not the real question. The real question is they are actually addressing the stereotype that you fall into. So I hope everyone understands this. Okay, no questions. And I really hope everyone just takes a hard look at yourself and think about, okay, am I guilty of exhibiting some kind of stereotype in my life? Okay, and yeah, so stereotypes. Okay, and then this is about networking, right? It's all about the impression that you're giving to people where you work, whether you are going to the gym, you're going to a formal networking event, or you are volunteering somewhere. Okay, and another principle about networking is that people remember you for what you offer, not what you want. What this means is that you see many people do not network as a habit. You only go to a career workshop and then you find out, oh no, I have to do this thing called networking. And then you ask the career center, do you have networking events? And then you go for the networking events, and the only thing you do at the networking event is, all you're telling yourself and all the signals that you're all sending out is, do you have a job for me? Do you have a job for me? And you're all about, I need a job, I need a job. And everyone you meet, you're not interested in that person. And then when you have conversations with that person, you're just trying to find out whether that person is working in a big bank and can offer you a lead into that job. You're not even listening to that person. This is what happens when the other person feels your, can we say, insincerity? The other person feels your agenda, and then there is no motivation for the other person to want to follow up with you. Yeah. Okay.
I think we had a question earlier on regarding the stereotype thing. Questions like, how do you handle questions like how many kids you have,
Yeah.
So I think maybe stereotype, I felt it was like, I think it's okay to answer them that how many kids you have, be very truthful. I mean, if you have 3 kids, you can't tell them you have 1 kid, right? So I think it's important that you be truthful. But what I think the stereotype meant was try not to talk the whole conversation in the networking about my children, what they do. Remember, your networking session is about finding opportunity. All right, a job opportunity. You are not there to tell them to share your parenting, your children, and all this. Then let them have the impression that you are actually very busy, and you may not be have that kind of bandwidth for a job. Same like, there are also stereotypes like, when I remember that a couple of clients share with me that they always share with me that, well, I know this, the young people now, they don't know this, the young people then, these are what I think Eileen meant stereotype, because if you keep on using that kind of words like the young people do not know this, the young people do not, it makes you actually sabotage yourself in terms of your age, in terms of, that you have a certain biasness towards certain things. Yeah. So I guess we try to avoid this kind of language, be positive, I think be more diverse in what we say, be more targeted. If you're looking for a job, make sure that you talk about opportunity, talk about what you can do, talk about your skills, rather than talking about, your issues.
Thank you, Alan, for that. Yeah, I really like that thing about the language that people use, especially when you yourself call other people youngsters, then you know what you're doing. And but to answer that question, right? How do you answer questions about, so remember the question behind this, the question behind you have how many kids do you have question, right? Is really, am I expecting that when I hire you, you're going to keep taking childcare leave? This is the real question. So if you want, prepare a response when you say, oh, I have 3 kids and I have a great support system at home. I have a helper and I've got parents-in-law who can take the children to whatever in case of emergency. So I'm fully able to commit myself to work. You see, and then try your best to skip over that completely. Do not let the interview go into what do you do at the childcare, which childcare do you use, and so that's no, okay? And stereotype questions, right? I thank you for that observation. Is actually completely illegal, and we're aware of that. But in Singapore, unfortunately, there are plenty of illegal questions that are being used, that are being asked, and because candidates are always on the, I'm here to look for a job, I feel like I don't have bargaining power. This is very common, and you will encounter these illegal questions. So my suggestion, Alan may have more suggestions. Our suggestion at least is prepare to answer respectfully, but immediately follow up with the, the real answer that they are looking for. Yeah.
I think important thing is if the hiring manager or the employers are so into stereotype, I think important thing is you want to consider, because even you get a job, you're going to face a lot of challenges. So I think it's definitely illegal to ask not legal to ask this kind of question, but we cannot stop them or stop anybody who want to ask this question. But most important thing is you must know your choice. What are you in for?
Yeah. And when we said networking, right, people remember you for what you offer. So for example, right, you are a great cook. That can be something you offer, or you are very good at fixing computers. So develop that reputation amongst your friends, even in, your closest circles, that you are a great repairer of computers. And then, when you develop that kind of reputation for what you're really good at, right? People remember you for that. And when they have a need, they will actually call you up for that need. So this is what we are talking about in networking. So it's not going into a networking event and saying that, hi, I'm an accountant, I've got 5 years experience. This really does not speak to anybody. Okay. And if you're not working currently, no name card, right? The good news is that today, if you want, you can print name cards for yourself. I've seen that in the other career centers. WSG used to have a program doing that. You can print name cards. That's the first thing. Secondly, you can exchange QR codes in your LinkedIn app. And those of you who are not yet active on LinkedIn, consider being active on LinkedIn using your QR code and exchange. You can actually use the QR code within LinkedIn app to say, can we exchange contacts? And I can drop you messages on LinkedIn. That's one
Yep.
way. Okay.
Okay. I think
Mm,
we have a, a comment here. I
mm,
think part of the comment by someone say,
yes,
I think the part of such question also help us to determine what kind of employer we are working
yes,
for and should we take up the role. But this
yeah,
does not help to create a healthy working culture.
mm,
That's right. That's what
mm,
we mentioned earlier on.
yeah,
Okay, you have a choice for it. Thank you very
yeah.
much for this
Yeah.
comment.
Yeah, and so remember, in networking, right? Do it something like you do right by people. You are generous always. You seek first to give before you think about receiving. So we're going to move on to the next slide, which is you have to sow before you can reap. So from today onwards, I'm hoping that all of you can leave this webinar treating networking as a lifestyle, and it doesn't have to be at a professional career event organized by a career center. It's
Mm,
everywhere. Your gym, your cycling interest group, your Facebook group, is anything. Okay. So I hope everyone can feel encouraged that no matter how small the action is, there is always something you can do.
mm. And
Yeah.
how about online? Is there anything online that I can do
Yes.
networking? Really?
Yes. Thanks, Ellen, for that. So online, there are LinkedIn interest groups where there are interest groups online that you can join, where you can what we call engage with other people, where you offer help, you offer suggestions. People remember you for it. So you
Mm,
see, you're not helping yourself by going to a LinkedIn interest group and say, "Hi, everybody, I'm looking for a job. I've got 5 years of whatever experience to offer." But if people post a question in an interest group, you do yourself a favor by trying to help that person answer that question. That's what we're talking about.
that's good.
Yeah. Okay. So the next sabotage station that we're looking at is job identification. So just now we talked about whether you're in the right funnel. Okay, so here are some mistakes that we see some people making. Okay, so first one, data analyst versus business analyst. I use this as an example. I had a candidate that her company called her a data analyst, but when she talked about her job, she was actually a business analyst. And until she realized by looking at the market that actually
Mm,
her job was a business analyst job, she was in the wrong funnel. She was searching for data analyst jobs because her ex-company called her a data analyst. So, so knowledge is the first part in this, whether you're in the right or wrong funnel. Okay. Oh, okay. Gray box, your field plus data. So just now we talked about those of you who are considering pivots, you are experienced professionals with an original area of expertise. You want to do something new. Okay. So this is the right funnel for you. When you have experience plus a new area of interest, you need to compete in that space. You cannot be competing in a completely fresh grad space where people who are 10 years, 20 years younger than you are competing with a 4-year degree and you are competing with a 6-month cert. Okay.
okay.
Mm,
Just a moment. I
yeah.
think there are some hand raised. So maybe I think you can put your concern or what thing that you like to
Mm,
ask in the Q&A.
okay.
All right. So I'm going to uh,
Yeah.
sorry.
So we'll wait for your questions in the Q&A.
Yeah, Q&A. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
So the yellow box, you're overqualified. So remember the earlier example, the SVP looking for the associate job. So we are talking about when you do that, you're essentially in the wrong funnel as well. It's not impossible, like Ellen said. However, you must remember that the hiring manager is very reluctant to employ an overqualified person in the first place. So straight out, you will be disadvantaged. Okay. The blue box, give me a chance. Okay, so what we have explained just now about you taking a cert and then going to employer saying, I just got a new cert, I have zero experience, I'm applying for this job because I hope to be given a chance to learn this new skill. That's not a clear exchange. This means that you're in the wrong funnel. So again, being in the wrong funnel where you have zero things to offer to the employer, you're asking the employer to do an outright favor to you, giving you a chance to learn simply because in your resume you write that I'm a willing learner. I am willing to start from the bottom. This is to the employer, not a fair or clear exchange. Okay, so that also means that you're in the wrong funnel. Okay, and then our green box is something that we see so often in the career center. People take courses and they think this means they qualify for a certain job. Okay, in our experience in at least the Singapore job market, courses really matter very little to the employer. Yeah. Okay, ready to move on?
Yep.
Okay. Okay, writing your resume, sabotage station number 4. Okay, so remember, I put an X there to remind everyone that in your job search, right, first getting to the right funnel is important. And then once you're within the right funnel, okay, everything that you do can cause you to be kicked out of that funnel. Because at every stage in a funnel, the employer is looking for someone to eliminate. So your objective has to be very, very clear and aggressive. I'm here to avoid elimination. So everything I write or say is going to be taken against me. So I'm going to have to make sure I don't put anything in my resume that causes me to be eliminated. Oh, okay. Yeah.
Okay. Good.
Can. So first thing, so again, overqualification is a big eliminator. If I'm only if I'm only hiring for analyst position, I'm going to just not even look at all the SVP and above applications. Okay. So sabotage number 2, which is the gray box, only certifications, no experience, eliminator also. Okay. And wait, did I just, let me see. You didn't translate. Okay, the yellow box, right, where I say you didn't translate, right, what this means is that many of you, especially the very highly experienced ones, you're in an area of expertise like debt syndication or debt restructuring. Is a highly complex area. Okay, and then you put things in your resume that are full of this complex jargon. Then, or you're working for actually companies that are actually the top of the top of the field in that area, but that company happens to be not very obscure and is not well known. So what is happening in your resume is that when an HR executive who is very inexperienced looks at your resume, that person doesn't understand that actually you are expert in your field, because that person is really just looking at the job requirements and seeing whether your CV matches the job requirements. So even though you may be in your CV, you may be telling yourself that whoever knows my area of work, right, who reads my CV will know that I'm very competent. The HR executive who is the first round of humans reading your CV is not going to understand. So again, it is both the complexity of the experience you have, number 1, and number 2, the obscureness of the companies that you list. If your companies are not big name companies, whoever is reading it is not going to get as impressed as you want them to be. So this is what we mean when we say you didn't translate your resume for the simplest reader.
I think the important thing is, you need to check the job description.
Mm.
When they put up the job description, they probably would have certain requirements and maybe some software name, some skill sets that maybe can be quite technical. But if your resume is going to put a lot of technical things inside and the HR may not understand what you're doing and it may miss the point where the requirement is, then that means that you didn't translate. Yeah. So do be more concise and more accurate in terms of what we want to put on the resume. Do check the job requirements. That is a good reference. Yeah.
And thanks, Ellen. You just helped me to remember another point, right? And a lot of people who are who are still in the wrong funnel, right, are applying for jobs where the only requirement they satisfy is either the type of degree in the job requirement, or the job requirement will always say things like quick learner, or result-oriented person, or team player, good communication skills. And then a lot of people look at these requirements and think that this is the key in a job requirement. And then you only qualify for those things and you apply for a job thinking you qualify. So in this case, actually, you do not.
Yeah, these are very general, generic words. I think you need to provide some evidence. Like, what do you mean by you are a team player? In what way and how you can be a team player?
Yeah.
So, so to do provide some evidence or is even something to relate with it rather than just put the keywords and copy from the job requirements.
Yeah. And also, right, this thing about providing evidence in the resume, right? So for example, if the key requirement is team leadership or team experience, teamwork experience, right? The evidence that you provide, right, is really writing things like worked in cross-functional teams of between size 5 team members to 50 team members for the last 5 years. That is an example of evidence. Not saying outright that I'm Eileen, I'm a team player. That's not evidence. Okay, and yeah, so same thing for every single thing that you're saying. So for example, in your resume, you may say, I'm an avid learner. Be prepared, because when you go for an interview, right, I'm going to ask you what are you learning now? And if you're not learning anything now, it just makes you look very weird. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay,
I think we got quite a number of questions. Maybe I address one question first. This is someone who asked about TFIP, TFIP, and it shares. I mean, it wrote that if I am from a completely different sector, wouldn't that means that I am automatically perceived by the employer that I'm in the wrong funnel? Yeah, I think TFIP is a program, it's a career conversion program, so it doesn't apply here.
Yes.
All right. What we meant is that when you're applying for jobs that is related to what you do, to what you want to do. For program like TFIP, it's totally there is a guideline, there is a requirement that you shouldn't come from a industry that you are there before, and that is where you qualified to do a career conversion, right? So totally different thing. There's another question. I think if you take course and do pro bono work or projects, can we put it in our resume, Eileen?
Yes. I encourage. In fact, I do encourage. When you take courses, you do when you do projects, as long as you're doing something other than courses, so it's pro bono work, paid work, part-time work, project-based work, consulting work, right? It's always good to put that in. And those of you who have done work of this sort, actually, there's a lot of things that you can write down. And to do that, right, we do encourage you to sign up with our career advisors, because a career advisor can really help you to really rebrand something that you have done into something that looks really impressive on paper. Yeah, so that's one thing.
And so another similar question is that, can I put down managing consultant and self-employed for job gaps? I think you can. If you are already self-employed, you must be doing something. If you're managing consultant, I think there is something that you are doing that could add value. So I think, for example, I always share self-employed, you can be seen as your entrepreneurial spirit, your entrepreneurial skills, certain skills that you may be using it to do certain work. So I think it's okay to put in to exhibit your capability and your ability to do certain job. Yeah.
Yeah, and in fact, right, if you are self-employed, if you are doing projects on your own, there's one thing, the project may be pro bono, or your contact may be just paying you transport allowances, right? There's no need to write there pro bono. I mean, for me, Ellen may have a slightly different opinion, right? But for me, sometimes I notice that some employers look at the word freelance or pro bono as something that, undermines the whole experience. So depending on your comfort level, you may not want to put the word pro bono, because to me, if someone is functioning as a consultant, to whatever, that person can function whether that person is paid or not. The quality of your work is the same. So if my objective in writing a resume is to avoid elimination, then I will avoid that elimination.
Yep, I think it's the same. I think important thing is not to have too many question marks on your resume.
Yeah.
Words like pro bono, mean something to somebody else. I think important thing is try to be more careful with the words that you choose. Yeah, so that if they want, I think at the interview stage you can share more, right? So don't need to put too many details inside. To write to the details. I always use the term nothing more, nothing less. Just keep it just nice.
Yeah. I mean, remember, your objective is really avoid elimination. So you want to, And to the question, okay, we've got some interesting questions, so we can afford to talk more, right? Once you achieve a course or cert, right, what can you do to gain experience? So there are plenty of areas. I don't know whether Ellen's got some other areas, but number one, if you are in accounting areas, I believe a lot of non-profits do need help in things like their accounts, setting up a website, doing freelance work on websites. And then if you are in data analytics, there is always GitHub and Kaggle, is that right? Where people can showcase their work, practice on data sets, and and there's something that I want to highlight, and I hope this sharing of this experience inspires everyone. So in our career center, we see hundreds of candidates, right? And in our history, right, I can count only less than 5 people who have told me that they actually self-taught themselves Python and today's hottest languages using just ChatGPT. Now imagine if a candidate writes there on a CV, self-taught using Python, self-taught using OpenAI platform, created these apps, fluent in Python, and then has a website showcasing your Python projects, right? That is a whole new level than just saying that you did a course in Python. So what I'm hoping that everyone takes away from this is not the exact technique, but the spirit of learning and your resourcefulness behind you. Because in Singapore's context, again, not everybody has the money to go and pay for an expensive course at General Assembly. Yeah.
Okay. I think important thing is if you really want to exhibit your skill set or what you have learned, you want to do, I think the word here is your applications. Yeah, so if you want to do that, I think it's always have an opportunity in terms of like what Eileen earlier shared, join communities to contribute, and there may be some projects that you are undertaking that you can showcase that. Right. So the other question, I think, talk about a career gap. Maybe I read out the question. I was overseas twice for 2 years plus, and both trips to accompany my spouse. I have a long career break for 10 years after retrenchment, and currently working in an SME for 2 years, looking to move back to MNC, right? And in this case, do I indicate the reason for not working in my resume? I think what you meant was the 10 years gap that you're not working, right? Yep, Eileen?
Okay, so my first take on this, right, is that do not identify too much with your gaps, because if you've been currently working already, you are no longer a career gap person. So you need to first off stop thinking of yourself as having a career gap, and instead you by all means indicate reasons, and let me explain the kind of reasons that will be alarm bells to the employer. So if the reason is, for example, I took childcare leave and then now I'm coming back to work, and my toddler is only 5 months old or something like that. To the employer, right, this is a big alarm bell, right? Because the question to the employer is, oh no, I'm looking at more childcare leave, I'm looking at perhaps another maternity leave because you just started your family or something extreme like that. So when you write down things like that, you may not want to mention things like childcare leave, but mention something that prevents you from being eliminated. For example, just say a company spouse. I think that's a fairly neutral thing. And if you have volunteered or done some sort of work, even if it's just creating and maintaining a blog or a Facebook page during your 10 years, right, that is worthwhile to actually put down, because then it shows your career story. Remember, career story. Yeah.
I think I had a client who put even she was taking care of the family, overseas for 10 years. I think one of the role that she put in was family manager. So as a family
Yeah.
manager, it's not easy, but also have to take care of a lot of things, coordinating, arrangements, and even need to do certain things that requires thinking and planning also. So I think these are some skill sets can be also be shown in your resume also. All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. We have a next question, and I'm ready to move on after we answer this next question. The one where interviewer keeps asking about the process and the sequence of work. I do and my work. Okay, so one tip for everyone when you're at an interview, right? Remember, there is always a real question behind whatever question the interviewer is asking you. So if an interviewer keeps on repeating a question, right, there's actually something else that they are asking that you're not answering. And in cases where the interviewer keeps on asking about the process and what you do, right, there are two scenarios here. One is that they are genuinely wanting to find out your role and your contribution or your skill, the genuine case. To me, that if there's a genuine case, because for example, you might be saying, okay, my team did this, my team did that, in my team we did this, and then there's this big question mark. Was it you or the team? The second possibility, and I've seen this happen before, is where the employer is actually not interested in this candidate. The employer is actually fishing for information about how other companies do the work. So in the second case, I will not give any details. I would just say that it is confidential, and I will try to answer it as though it is the first case, right? And another, just a tip also, we have had also other employers who ask questions that are outright illegal, like what was your last drawn salary for the last 5 jobs? Totally illegal. There are employers like that in Singapore. They are actually fishing for information. Okay, ready to move on?
Yep.
Okay, hold on. So unexplained, let me see. For this, right, unexplained gaps in the resume. Okay, what I mean by this are when your gap is a very long gap, and then you either give a very poor reason for it, like if you don't have anything to account for it, right, and you have this unexplained gap, it's very suspicious to an employer when they read it. Yeah. Okay, so for example, if you're looking for a job and you've been looking for a job for 5 years, and then your last job history in your resume is 2018, and you don't offer any explanation, that is a big no-no. Okay. Short stints. This happens a lot to our job seekers because in these days, many of you may have had to take contract jobs to pay the bills. Suggestion: work with a career advisor to group the stints together so that they do not look like you work 1 month and then stop 1 month, work another month, stop 1 month. That's possible. Work with a career advisor to rewrite that whole thing so that it doesn't look so bad. Okay. And too honest. This is sticky because I am addressing this to people who have been fired by the boss, right, for whatever reason. So if you're going to put down in your resume that I was fired for example, forging a signature, please don't. Extreme example, but there are job seekers who have a strong sense of righteousness, and you feel you have to be completely honest in your resume. Remember, your objective is to avoid being eliminated. Yeah. Okay, Alan, you want to
Okay.
take the next question and we're ready
Yes.
to move?
Yes. We can take the next question. Okay. So there's someone asked, is it okay? So how can we refuse? I mean, how if someone asks about an illegal question, all right? Can we just refuse to answer? I think yeah. So Eileen, you want to?
Okay, Alan, you go first, then I
Okay.
will see
Yeah.
whether
Yeah.
I got
Sure.
different.
Yeah. I mean, illegal questions. Of course. If it's really illegal questions and something that is confidential, all right, like what Elena mentioned earlier on, that some trade secrets or some informations that you have you have signed an NDA, or even your salary, they try to
Yeah.
fish out your information. I think yes, you can refuse politely, uh, and if they insist, and I think that you should tell them that I do respect you, that in a way of answer questions. I mean, asking me a questions, but then again, I hope you can also respect me for the answer that I'm going to provide you, because I have a situation here. I cannot reveal to this to you. Yeah. So do it in a very polite way so that you will not offend anybody. Yeah. Yep, that is my question. Anything else to add, Eileen?
I've nothing else to add, and but we have another question that's a follow on
Mm,
some companies ask for your previous pay.
mm,
So when they ask for a previous pay, right?
mm,
Like Ellen said, right? If you it's a double-edged sword, and it's a question that only you can answer if you, depending on how comfortable you feel. Because we have heard of horrible recruiters where the moment you refuse to divulge your pay, they will just hang up the phone on you.
mm,
There have been experiences like that. So you have to ask yourself, are you prepared to let it go if they don't proceed without
yep,
a figure from you? Yeah.
yes.
Mm,
And maybe to add on to Eileen, I
mm,
mean, important to know is that at which stage of your interview or at
mm,
which stage of your job search, I mean, during the
yeah,
interview that you are, if it's at the final stage where they are more or less confirmed,
yeah,
you
yeah.
know, hiring you, and then I think, yeah, why not to review your last pay
Mm,
so that they can verify that what your
yes.
information you provide is correct, is genuine. Yeah.
Mm,
But if it's at the beginning stage, I think it's too early.
mm,
I think if they have no intention to hire you, I think,
yeah,
yeah, maybe can give them some expected salary in terms of your range
yeah.
or what you expected. Yeah, so that they can understand, whether do they have a budget to hire you. But then again, you do not need to provide any information or letter or anything to them at the beginning stage. What we
Yeah.
think is at the last stage where they decided to hire you, then that would be more appropriate. Yeah.
Yes. Thanks, Ellen, for that. That will bring us to another point when we go through the interview stage, right? So what if you left due to politics? Okay, there is your interviewer. So there are always ways to answer. You will need to work with a career advisor to answer this in detail. But in short, right, you you need to be able to say this in a very politically correct way to say, as with any restructuring, an incoming person usually wants to, blah, blah, blah. And however, okay, people who suffer this kind of thing, what is sabotaging you, right? It's not the thing that happened, but the victim mentality that you pick up after the incident.
Mm,
So
yeah.
what happens when that happens, right, is that it may trigger you during the interview. Then you feel very aggrieved. Then, and then the conversation becomes this person wanted to bring in his generals, and then the generals wanted to bring in their captains, right? If you are able to practice with a career advisor until the stage where you say, you know what, there was politics, but I took it in my stride. I took it as a chance for me to reflect. I resigned, yes. I took it as a chance for me to reflect and really determine, to recharge, refresh, determine what I really wanted from a career. I've decided that these are my strengths. This is what I'm really good at. And this is what I can offer you today. And this is why I'm applying for this job today.
Mm,
You see, then with that kind of response, you are turning the attention back to you
mm,
and what you offer. But it takes practice. It takes practice for you to get the bitterness out of your answer. I think that's what
mm.
we're trying to say. Yeah.
Okay. I think we're going to have quite a couple of interviewing questions. So
Yes.
maybe we can proceed to the interviewing slides.
Yeah.
Yeah. All
Okay.
right. So then we can probably share a bit of information, a bit of presentation, and then we can answer the question.
Thanks.
All right.
Okay, so interviewing slides, right? Interviewing sabotagers. So stereotypes and biases, we already talked about that. Salary, our only advice is that salary, when used too early in the interviews, is always a filter. So be very careful. When it is at a negotiation stage, right? When you reach the decision maker, that's a different story altogether. Unresolved baggage, we have just addressed that. And answer the real question. So I hope that remember, in every interview, right, every question is a filter to filter you out or to keep you in the funnel. And you need to answer the real question that is behind that question. So the question behind how many kids you have is really the amount of absenteeism that the boss needs to expect from you. Okay. And so I hope that covers it, all 4 boxes already covered. And then is you and not your attributes. So many people get derailed in your interviews because when they ask you a question, so tell me about yourself, then you talk about the X company, or you talk about your gap, that's even worse, or you talk about your past trauma. So remember, you're there to sell what you can offer going forward, not what happened to you in the past, or how the X bank did this particular project. So remember the focus of the interview, that's you. Okay. And copying somebody's style without the substance. So this is why we mentioned that when you copy a technique from Google, you use the words that somebody else uses, but you don't have that career story to underpin all that. You don't have the personality, right? This is when your technique fails. Then you're not convincing to the interviewer, and then you get filtered out. Yeah. We are ready to answer questions.
Yes. I think there are questions like earlier on. What if they ask about your age?
Okay, so again, remember what we said, right? Age is always used as a filter. In Singapore, I know in other countries age is illegal, but in Singapore it is very horrible. We do have people who get dropped off. I mean, they get kicked out of the funnel once they reveal age. So if you have an age challenge right in front of you, right, the best thing you could do, I'm going to offer one response, see whether Alan wants to add on, is that you can say, well, I'm 59 this year, and I have more energy than I did when I was 40. This is what I do on a daily basis. Then you can share, blah, 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 that kind of thing.
Yeah. I think that's a good one. I think for me, I think important thing is age is a number, but then important thing is to show your wealth of experience. I mean, as you age, you do have your experience, which fresh grads or anybody who will not have it, and I think that is your strength. So I think age is a number that you can share. I think it's okay and nothing to hide. Maybe they will say, oh, you look younger than your age. Yes, I'm be keeping myself fit. I'm be keeping myself, doing some sports, and I'm very, active. The whole idea here about age is whether are you active or you're not active.
Yeah.
So that important thing that you need to ask yourself questions: are you active or not active?
Yeah.
So the other thing, I think, answering to another questions about the politics earlier on, I think there is the same person will ask the same question again. Say, how do you put it in a positive way? If you do not have a good relationship with your ex-boss or working relationship with someone in a company you cannot work with, how do you put it in a positive way?
Okay.
Yeah.
My one suggestion, first off, right, you don't always have to give a reason for leaving in your resume. However, you will almost always be asked, why are you leaving? Why did you leave your last job? So remember the beginning of this webinar, we talked about your career story. If you are clear enough about your own interests, right, that particular bad relationship with the boss is just the conflict stage of your career. So you don't have to mention that as the reason why you left. I guarantee you there will be other reasons that attract you for the next company. Because if your only reason is applying for the next company is that I had to leave the last job because of a horrible ex-boss. I'm here to apply for you because you have a job, right? Then that's not very convincing. So in crafting your career story, you have to be very clear what is it that you want to present to the employer. So I'm hoping this answers your question. And as usual, I'm going to encourage you to work with a career advisor with us. I'm going to give contact details so that you can get yourself working with one immediately.
Yes. All right.
Yeah.
Maybe we can do a poll now. Maybe you can help us with a poll. Yeah, I think it will benefit us a lot. So for the poll,
yeah. So
give us some feedback.
While we do the poll, we will continue answering your questions. And then there is, I'm going to show our contact details as well. Yeah. And okay, I am.
Okay. So
okay,
maybe
so remember.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, I'm just saying that, remember, the most important picture that I want everyone to be able to get out of this is the recruitment funnel. Get into the right funnel. And remember that your job, once you're in the right funnel, is to avoid elimination.
Elimination. That's right.
Yeah. And then for, we run these kind of career events very often. So you can subscribe for alerts at the bottom link. If you want to email us to work with a career advisor, the link is there. And we can carry on with the questions. Those of you who are staying on to listen, we're going to try our best to answer the questions. Yeah.
We have 2 minutes left to answer all the questions. I know we love to answer your questions, but we may miss out some. So don't please make an appointment to see a career advisor so that we can also help you to address your concern. All right, maybe quickly we answer a question. The first question is how do we answer questions of being laid off? I think maybe I take the questions.
Yes.
Well, I think being laid off, I think in a way you, instead of saying the words retrench or lay off, I think you can put in the perspective that, the company have restructured or the company has did certain things. I think in a way, put it in a very professional way, what is happening within that landscape or within the company itself. And then now you're looking for a new job to add value, right? So try not to focus too much on the reason why and go into the detail why. You want to avoid that, Yeah. So that's my take for being laid off. Yep.
Okay, I'm not going to answer the questions in order because there's a very interesting question right at the end. How do I tell an interviewer that I left the previous company due to criminal activity and fraud? I actually really like this kind of question because this is a chance for you to showcase that you have a strong sense of justice and integrity. So, because the reason why you left is really because you have a sense of justice and integrity, and you're righteous about it. That is the reason you left, right? So, I think easily 95% of companies out there value integrity and honesty. So the best way for you to be able to say this would be, there's no need for you to say lots of criminal activity politically and, no whistleblower. You can say that there were ethical issues and then go away from that company and say that, I've always put a lot of pride in my sense of, I always uphold integrity in my dealings. I like to work with the highest standards of excellence and integrity. And, so I sought a way out. And this is the reason I came to your company, because I believe that your company is, also upholds this. And then you can spin one whole story about why the company's values resonate with your own. So I'm hoping this helps you. Career advisor is going to help you make this even better.
Okay. Can you maybe put up the poll again? Maybe we answer 2 more questions. We put up the poll again. Those who have not done the poll, please help us. I think we really appreciate you put the effort. Yes, that's right. So we put up the poll again. Hopefully you can help us, those who have not done it, and maybe you can help us a bit while we answer another 2 more questions. All right, maybe one more question. Let me read out. How can I answer this question on why I would like to move from SME to MNC? All right, my background is I was previously from MNC. I joined SME during COVID and now took the opportunity to return to workforce after a long career break. So, in a way, I wanted to move back to MNC is because their pay is better, bigger salary, than the job scope, and they pay better. Yeah. So, how can you answer this during the interview? Yeah.
Okay, remember what we mentioned just now earlier, no clear exchange? That principle applies here. if your only exchange is that you want bigger job, you want bigger pay, right? But you have you need to offer something that will make this a clear exchange for that company. Okay, I hope this helps. And then if I'm looking for individual privacy, okay, expected salary is easy. Let the market be your reference. If you know that individual contributor is drawing less, you can afford to say negotiable. If they are willing to pay you what you last drew, that's great. If not, then they know that it's negotiable.
Okay, thank you very much. I think we come to the end of the session. So I think there are a few questions. If you really like to, want us to help you to address your concern, please book an appointment to see a career advisor. All right, I think we are able to help you to with that. And also, with that, I think thank you very much for your comment. Also, appreciate that. Yep. Anything else from you, Eileen?
No, nothing else. But please feel free to connect with Ellen and I or any of our team on LinkedIn. Let me see, it's our, okay. I'm just going to leave it to our teammates to type our full name. I mean, our full name is in the Zoom name, right? You can find us on LinkedIn, connect with us. Feel free. And those of you who do not have a career advisor yet, please come and sign up with us.